growing up, I would feel like I wish I was just one race. Like that way I could like feel like fully comfortable with just being myself and who I am, instead of being split into and not even knowing half of who I am.
Do you ever question if you truly belong in the category that society puts you in?
Yes. Because when I meant like, you know, like we talked about like code switching, like sometimes like when I'm here, like, oh, like, I feel like I'm more Filipino than I am like it's like American, I guess, because compared to other Filipinos here in the States, like Filipino Americans, like my family still follows like traditional like practices, like, oh, like going to church every Sunday because they're Catholic, like praying the rosary, stuff like that. Like I mentioned, like the bless earlier, and then like a lot of the food that we eat is like home cooked Filipino food, and a bunch of like other Filipino customs compared to like my other friends who, when their family moved to the States, like they became secular, so they didn't really they're not really like as practicing as they were probably before they left the Philippines. And then like other stuff too, like they don't really like follow like the blessing and do other stuff like that or pray or anything. So I feel like when I'm here, I feel like I'm very Filipino. But then in contrast, like when I come back to the Philippines, like I don't feel as Filipino, but I feel more American.
The disconnect comes from me not being able to speak Spanish as well as I should, I guess is the way I see it.
Do you feel that the disconnect kind of happens because of where you live too?
Yes and no, because being surrounded and growing up surrounded by a lot of different Mexicans and like Hispanics, there are times when I, comparatively to others, I do feel more Mexican because, like, say some people are more whitewashed than me, but then when I'm surrounded by people that aren't as whitewashed as me, I do feel a little bit less in touch with my Mexican side or Honduran side.
Do you question if you truly belong in the categories that society puts you in?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I'll literally just sit to myself like, am I really Black enough? Like, am I really like, I'll just sit there and think like, and it's not even because like I just like of my skin tone or like experiences growing up. It's not even just that. It's just like how, of course, not everyone holds the same views, and like I can't stereotype an entire community. Same thing with the Asian community. But starting off with the Black community and stuff, like seeing things, and it might just be Twitter. Twitter just is always on something, and people love to be bold on there. But I also feel like people are actually opening about how because it's like on this like behind screens or whatever instead of in person. People are opening up about how they really feel, and seeing that like because people are biracial, you don't like they don't consider them Black. And it's like I don't think that's correct. I don't think, who are you to deny anyone of their Blackness? But it's just I like sometimes I'll sit there like, am I actually Black enough? Like am I enough to claim what I am, even though like I didn't have like some stereotypical experiences or basic experiences like other people have. And because like I'm not as discriminated against, like of course I'm never gonna have the full like I'm never gonna go through things as a dark-skinned fully Black woman will, or just a fully Black woman herself. She's not like, I'm not, because I'm culturally and racially ambiguous. I may not be as discriminated against. I may be preferred over just because of skin tone, which is really infuriating. But I don't know. Like I don't think about that too much, or I try not to, because I understand that is just my own insecurity within myself. Like no one has ever told, like other than when I was growing up, no one has told me like, oh, you're not Black. Like no one has told me that until, well, besides when I was younger, but like now, like growing up, like I'm put that in the past, like no one's still denying my blackness. No one's still doing that to me. And then like within the Asian community, I just, like, I'm not sure because just like I just don't know my culture.
How does society influence your self-image, and how does your family? Do they change it? Do they define it?
I feel like at first, or when I was younger, I definitely let society influence my self-image a lot more. But as I've grown up, it's kind of, I was about to cuss. I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on this, but
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
I guess
it's a moment's past. Just don't do it. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. As I grew up, I gave less of a shit about like what people who I don't have any connection to saw me as, you know? If it's my family, what they say definitely holds more weight to me. But if it's something that a stranger says in passing, I don't really give it any thought, don't give any weight to it, you know? And that's something when I was younger, I used to care a lot more about like what other people saw me as or what other people thought of me as. And it's just, frankly, I don't. I just don't care anymore. If my parents say something to me, then yeah, it's something I take to heart and I'll think about, and I'll try to reflect on it. But I guess it's just how close I am to the person really determines how much I let it impact me.
I was a math major this year, and I was always like math and loved doing math. So I would hear that from like not necessarily my friends, but just like random people, especially in high school.
What would you hear?
Like, oh, like of course, of course he's good at math, like he's Asian, but I'm not really good at. I'm not really good at like science or biology or chemistry and stuff like that. So it would also be like, oh, but aren't you Asian? Like, aren't you really smart at those things? But you're good at math and stuff like that.
And how do you feel that influences your self-image?
Like I feel like because I feel like I'm not as smart as I think I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to be, because like Asian are supposed to like be smart at like all like the STEM, so science and math and stuff like that. So I felt like, oh, like I'm not following like what I'm supposed to be.
I feel like there is, like, despite the things that I have said about my family, like the shade that they've done, I know like they love me at the end of the day, and like I am who I am. They're not gonna tell me like, they're gonna still accept me for who I am, and like my dad will like even remind me, like, you're Black and you're Indonesian, like you're not just one or the other. And they don't like make me feel like I have to choose one, whereas society usually does. It's like I have to choose being either Black or Asian, like, or I'm just not Black enough. And I do have insecurities, like I'm not going to deny that, but I feel like I've grown a lot more since I was when I was younger. And I think I'm just starting to learn to like just accept things the way they are.
So do you think that there should be that boundary, that separation between Filipino and Filipino American?
See, it's like I don't know if like, because like when you talk about like separation, it feels like, oh, like it feels like, oh, these two could like never these two could never go, like coexist, stuff like that, like they're their own separate like thing. I mean, they are their own separate thing, but I feel like the two sides can learn from one another without trying to superimpose like one over the other. It's like a very heavy topic, and we always
like we could, you know, not have like these binaries or these boxes that like are categories that like define us and who we are. I feel like we can still have our culture, our experiences, and things like that. But in order for me to say like get rid of them, like we actually have to come to like, I feel like a point in time to where race isn't like such a heavy thing. Yes, part of it is my insecurity to why like of my identity, but I'm not, these ideas aren't coming from nowhere.
Have you ever gotten mad or angry or, I don't know, emotional over not being able to connect with one of your cultures based off an experience that you had?
Yeah. I definitely had, like, I felt like that situation from when I was in elementary school, those two girls, and stuff, that made me very upset. It made me very frustrated because I didn't understand my own culture. And for them to exclude me because I didn't understand my culture, it made me feel really bad about myself. Instead of like being mad at them mostly, I was mad at myself.
Do you feel like you can describe yourself without those two influences, those two constructs guiding you?
It's definitely a lot harder. I can tell you that much. Who am I guess, you know?
If you can't, that's okay. It is a hard question. It is a hard question.
Yeah, I don't really know.
You are biracial. Do you personally feel like it's okay for you to be both?
I feel like it is okay for me to be both, but I feel like I'm always forced to pick one side or the other. And because I don't really know necessarily know my age, like my Indonesian side of myself, I've always found myself to just disregard that. Like, yeah, I'm biracial, yeah, I'm Black and Asian, but I just mostly identify as Black. Like, despite it being like, I do feel like it's okay to, have two or more races. Like, I feel like that's completely okay. But for me, at least, I feel like it's just two races. It's just like what composes me. It's not like something I necessarily resonate with.
Are you okay with there being both sides to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of like my insecurities about it came from like when I was still a little younger, like when I was, I guess, like in my like high school, like my teenage years. But then now, like after like going through undergrad and learning, like having more of these conversations, like with not just like this, but also like in the club and having those meetings and being able to discuss it with friends and then discuss it with like other people, like other Filipinos that are like-minded like me. I feel more comfortable in accepting like who I identify with and who I am trying or what I'm trying to understand. Because I already know like there's so much more stuff that I want to know about and learn about. And I'm more comfortable in asking questions about it because I I personally just want to find out myself. So I think I forgot what your question was, but I was just going off on a
No,
tangent.
yeah, you answered
But
it. You answered it.
but yeah, I think for me, like I'm more content and more like at home with myself compared to before.
I feel like you should have a basic understanding at least, and of those like of certain experiences growing up, whether it's like, I don't know, like you should have like a basic understanding of different things. Like, yes, I didn't grow up like with the basis of having experiences like of a fully Black family, but I still understood them. Like, I understood what things were. Yes, my friend taught me other things I was very clueless about, but it's just like I had a basic understanding of like things that Black people, like only Black people would go through. And like I did feel some of those things, like, but for like the Asian community and stuff, like I felt like I feel like I just don't have a basic understanding, at least with my Indonesian side. Like I know what certain, because like most of my friends who were Asian are Filipina, and I knew like some of their like traditions, like their cultures, just from by being friends with them. But because I didn't know anything, I don't know anything about like my like Indonesian, I just feel like very disassociated with, and I feel like I just don't understand things at all. And I feel like that's like a very big a big part of like your identity, like understanding like those experiences.
Do you consider yourself whitewashed?
There are definitely times when I feel that way, but for the most part, I would say no. I do feel like I grew up with enough, or not enough. I guess enough isn't the right word. With a good amount of Mexican culture. If it was whitewashed, I would say it would be more on my like Honduran side, where I didn't really. I'm not really in touch with that side of my culture, and I don't know that much about Honduran culture.
How would you identify yourself?
So I'm a 20-year-old, third-year student, college student. Yeah, I guess like aside from all that, like I don't know. I guess that's just really hard for me to be able to, because I feel like a lot of conversations I've had growing up, with the experiences I had, I felt forced to tell people what I am, or forced to say or pick an identity, like racially or ethnically and stuff. I never really just thought about like, who am I to myself? Like when you just asked me that, I was just like, dang, who am I? Who am I really? What do I actually like? What is it like? What is me? It's just becomes so automatic. Oh yeah, I'm Black and Asian. I'm Black and Asian, and just keep it pushing. Like they don't really care about who I am as a person. They care about what I am ethnically or racially, because they can't figure it out by looking at me.
I still don't think it would change that much. I do see myself as a Mexican Honduran that has an American aspect to them, because I mean I grew up here. I can't run away from that fact. I was born here, have lived my entire life in the U.S. So there's a lot of things that like within me that show that, the way I speak, the hobbies that I have, things like that.
So I think like I think I'd still describe myself as Filipino. I personally, for me, I don't think I would use. I think I wouldn't use the hyphen. I'd probably mostly say like I'm Filipino and American instead of Filipino-American, because I feel like I like experience and have lived like both worlds, and I feel like even though sometimes I'm not, I feel like I'm comfortable enough to understanding both, even though I don't know everything yet. Like I still try to, which is the thing that I try to pride myself on, is that I'm able to experience both.